The Jason Rigdon Show is recorded in Seattle, Washington in front of a live studio audience of indifferent but cute cats. You can support this podcast by giving us a rating and review on iTunes, sharing this episode on social media, or just by telling a friend about the show. You can also support the show financially on Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/Jason Rigdon.
Well, my name is Rossana Cambron. I'm a national co-chair of the Communist Party USA. I was elected at the last convention in 2019.
And could you tell me a little bit about this party?
Well, the Communist Party has a proud history of a struggle within the working class. Since its founding 100 years ago, we understood that racism was a tool of capitalism. And we have fought that throughout our 100-year history. We've been instrumental in implementation of the Social Security and unemployment insurance, rights for workers to organize, and anything that helps workers improve the quality of life in this country.
So in this country, the label communist is thrown around as an insult oftentimes.
Right.
How would you define what communism is? I know it's a huge topic. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, communism is kind of the ultimate goal. And we understand that things are a process. And so before we can actually get to communism, we have to embark on a system of socialism, which begins that transformation from a profit before people idea to a people before profit idea, erasing some of these social norms, such as, racism, such as inequalities between genders, inequalities of LGBT rights, any kind of inequalities, erasing some of the individualism and all of the things that kind of capitalism breeds. And so socialism embarks on that process of that transformation, that then you get to the system of communism, where you actually are not going to need any money or anything like that, because everyone's going to work based on their capacity, based on even their interests, and for each other. So, we begin to think a lot more of each other and what's good for the whole, as opposed to what's good for the individual. I don't know if that completely answers, but if there's anything that's not clear.
No, it gets as close as we can. Like I said, it is a very large subject and hard to, break down into a soundbite.
Yes.
I do have a rather absurd question,
Sure.
But we do live in very absurd times. So both Joe Biden and Camille Harris have been accused of being communists. As someone who is a communist, what would you say to that?
Well, no, they're far from it. They still live in working within the capitalist system. We don't. Our goal is to transform the capitalist system. We understand it's a process, and that we understand that, we also have to work within the here and now to bring about some of the necessary changes to improve working people's lives. But at the same time, working to reach that ultimate goal by raising awareness of another system that is possible. And, that there is really a transformation. There is really another system that will get rid of all of these ills that make us suffer, in personally, and then, the suffering that we see even sometimes outside of our home. And essentially that's why I joined the party, because it gave me that hope that really there is a solution, a real solution based on a science. And it was that hope that I've been fighting for the last 40 years. And I know it seems like a long stretch, but, it's a process. It's not there's no sprint to this. It's a dialectical process.
Well, because you're imagining a whole new world, for me, growing up in, capitalist society, I'm so just steeped in the ideas of capitalism. It's hard to even imagine a different way of life.
I understand that. And for me, same way when I was first introduced to Marxism-Leninism, and it's not just kind of an idealist thing. There's an actual theory, there's an actual science to it, and then there's the history to back that science so far. We went from slavery to feudalism to capitalism, and you see the changes. You went from women not being able to vote to women being able to vote. You went from women not always having to wear corsets and these god-awful long dresses to being able to pretty much wear whatever you want to wear. So there is that you can see that progression, that process of change as people become much more conscious through their experience and through social movements that they get involved with, that you can begin to see that change is really possible. And again, it's a process, but it really is possible. Sometimes it can get daunting or it can feel hopeless, but you go back to understanding that process, and you go back to understanding that there is that possibility. I mean, there is that hope, and there will be that change.
Well, it's hard not to, walk around in 2020 and not see kind of the failures of capitalism, from the effects of global warming to just, like I am here in Seattle, there are so many people suffering on the streets, and capitalism offers no solution to this.
Yeah, and we do.
And so what would we be doing, like, for homelessness in a communist society? How would we solve the homelessness situation? Or do you have any ideas about that?
Well, I mean, we can point to countries that are in that beginning stages of socialism, like China. Before the pandemic, they were about to pull everyone out of poverty. Now that's 1 billion people. In Cuba, the same thing. Everybody has a place to live. I was there some time ago, and you didn't see homeless people. Everybody had a place to live. Now, granted, it's not a mansion, and it's not because of the blockade that they are suffering under. It's not maybe the fanciest house, but it is a home nonetheless that where they have food and water and electricity, the basic needs. China too, they have pulled so many people out of poverty. They have built these long towers where people are living. They have universal health care. I mean, I was actually in China and I got sick, and it was unbelievable how I went into the emergency. I saw one specialist and a doctor and the general doctor. They took vitals. They gave me a shot. They a CAT scan. Now you're talking about 1 billion people in this country, and I was out in 4 hours. Where in the United States, if you go into emergency, it's going to be, all day, and you're always thinking about how much money it's going to cost you.
Yep.
So I'll tell you what. You want to know what it cost me? $65.
What? Wow.
Yes. And I'm not lying.
No.
I actually even wrote an article in People's World about it, because this is what a socialist country can do for people. And so, once again, it just solidifies for me that, I'm in the right path to building a better world, not just for me, but for my grandchildren and for people throughout this country.
So we seem to be having kind of a surge in kind of maybe popularity or interest in kind of anti-capitalism, critiques of capitalism. There's lots of groups, lots of socialist groups. What was special about the Communist Party, and what attracted you to that specifically, as opposed to all these other kind of left-wing groups?
I feel and it's not a put down in other groups, but I just felt like it was my political home. It made sense to me. There was no kind of idealism attached to it, or no. It was real, we deal with the here and now first and foremost. We don't push what we wish for. We say, this is what we have to deal with. How do we move from what we are right now to the next step that will move the working class forward, that will help build that road towards socialism? So for me, it's a very real look at our situation and how do we move forward. So that's why I thought the party was the best for me.
Now, the Communist Party, the political persecution in the United States against people involved in the party has, a very long history. Is it difficult when you're out there trying to talk to people and trying to, get them to expand their minds to get past just the label?
It can get difficult sometimes, but not. In my younger years, it was maybe a little more difficult. But more and more people, even the majority of people under 30 believe that socialism is a better system. And, why do they feel that? It's because they are really experiencing capitalism today. The lack of jobs, healthcare, food insecurity, the environment, so it's not as hard nowadays to talk about communism and socialism as it was some 40 years ago for me. There are still some stigmas, of course. The battle of ideas is pretty intense. So there's still some of that, but we work through it. We make sure that we are respectful, and if people are not on board, that's okay. We won't get mad at them.
And as a party, what are some of your, kind of priorities right now?
Well, our priority is to get the fascists out of government right now. That's first and foremost, because the environment in which we struggle will be that much more difficult under a fascist government than neoliberal one, I guess, or So the struggle right now is to get the fascists out of office. And once again, we deal with the real world. What do we have before us? We have a fascist who wants to continue, and it's not just Trump, but it's everybody behind him. There's a fascist movement behind him, and we've got to get rid of them first. And then, we create a better environment to struggle, but we've got to continue struggling and push for workers' rights and for, a livable wage and all of that kind of thing.
And if people, want to learn more about your party or get involved, how would they go about doing that?
You can go to our website, it's cpusa.org. And you can get information about our party, read some of our writings, articles, and things like that, and also join and or sign up for our news and views. And we have some, you'll also get information about some of our webinars. We're having a webinar on China coming up this Sunday, 9 Pacific time. So that should be a pretty interesting webinar. We just had one on the dangers of fascism, which you would be able to probably access the video of that too.
Oh, so there's video, so we can, even if we miss the actual webinar, we can review the video later?
Yes, definitely, yeah. Yeah, so if you want to sign up for the webinar and you don't make it, you'll get an email saying, we missed you or whatever, but here's the link so that you can listen to the webinar, yeah.
Oh, that's great, yeah. Because a lot of folks, they're working the evening time or something's conflicting to their schedule, and they end up missing out on a lot of kind of these kind of political educational activities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, you can read it and, you can listen to it in your car. while you're driving to work or, wherever.
So in this country, we have kind of like a political duopoly of just the Republicans and the Democrats. How difficult it is for these third parties, like, your party, to break into the conversation. It seems like they have all these barriers up.
Well, of course, yeah, it's very difficult. In the 80s, we did run presidential candidates, and it was very difficult because you have to get a certain amount of registered voter signatures, and they do make it pretty hard. But also, I believe it was in the 80s that we strategically believe that the current rising threat was the ultra-right, which took hold under the Reagan administration. So strategically right now, that's what we focus on. We do run local candidates, but we don't run any presidential candidates as of yet. But, there's a growing number of people who can't relate to either party. And, this bodes well for the creation of a major third party. But it has to be based on the massive amount of people wanting that third party. It just can't be for us calling it. It's the people who make these fundamental changes, not just, one party. But it's the masses of people that dictate, really. I mean, an example is the Democratic platform. It's through the social movements that have existed that the current Democratic platform was created. And so it shows you that, the people have the ultimate power.
It seems like right now they have less faith in capitalism than ever before, at least the people that I talk to. A lot of people are out of work. We've seen this pandemic. For those people that are kind of having doubts about capitalism, sometimes maybe for the first time in their lives, do you have any suggestions about like resources we can start pointing people to kind of begin their education?
Well, I think, there's so many different things, but I would say, if you read the Communist Manifesto, that will help. If you read What is Marxism by Emil Burns, those are really good starters because they kind of give you an overview. They're not too dogmatic, but they kind of give you an overview of what is possible. And then there's others, of course, a lot of works by Lenin, Lenin's State and Revolution, or Left-Wing Communism, Infantile Disorder by Lenin. All of those are also really relevant today. And then there's a book by George Dimitrov, which is called United Front. It's called United Front, which is on fascism. And that's also a really good starter book that, it's relevant to what we're experiencing today. And then, our website has a number of articles that will be also very helpful that people can read.
Yeah, and if people want to learn more about the party, where should they go?
To cpusa.org, and you'll find a variety of articles there. And our swag shop, too. We have a swag shop.
And they can probably learn how to join the party on that site, too?
Yes, there's a join form at the very top on the right-hand side.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
You've been listening to The Jason Rigdon Show. More information and links for our guests are in the show notes. For more information about this show, visit jasonrigdon.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, email jasonrigdon@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 425-835-2766. Our theme music is Bush Week by Nihilor and used under the Creative Commons Attribution License. This episode is copyrighted by Jason Rigdon in 2020 and is freely available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. Thanks for listening and have a great day.